Waking up Shin's master, who was trapped in the body of an unborn phoenix, was somewhat complicated. In practice, Kierra needed to wait for the egg to hatch, but this egg was gifted to Kierra right after it was laid, much to her reluctance, and phoenix eggs could take literally forever to crack, for regular phoenix eggs, that was. If one thought about it, why would a phoenix lay eggs in the first place? Weren't they supposed to be a truly immortal species who could resurrect infinitely? Turns out, not quite. These large firebirds had a secret. A secret so big it would directly threaten their survival if revealed. Their eggs were essentially spare bodies. This was the method phoenixes used to resurrect back in Kierra's world. Once their body died, no matter the cause, their soul would automatically be transferred into one of these eggs, thus reviving them. Kierra once got challenged by one of these birds, particularly their very princess, so she promptly beat the crap out of her, then proceeded to track her way to her nest. Kierra was then bribed with this egg in exchange for her silence, subsequently beginning her strange relationship with the Phoenix Princess. A relationship that got complicated quite quickly. Nevertheless, the egg in front of her should be ready to hatch right now. Normally, only a phoenix's soul could enter an egg, but with Kierra's imitation of the king of the underworld's magic, shoving a human soul in was possible. It should be totally fine, probably. Kierra stood up and grabbed the egg, much to the others' surprise. They followed her to the middle of the room, where the Archwizard took out a large blanket and spread it out on the ground. When she put the egg on top of it, Tianyun couldn't suppress her curiosity. Kierra, is this needed for the hatching? She asked. Kierra turned around with a serious face. No. But if I don't do this, the liquid inside the egg will dirty my house. Oh. So they watched as Kierra pulled out a banana-looking stick thingy and raised it above her head. Before Shin could even fathom the Archwizard's intention to strike the egg with that thing, Kierra had already pulled her hand down, bringing the banana thing with it. Crack. One strike was all it took. The eggshell was cleanly separated, falling to either side lightly and revealing a decently sized bird inside. The little thing had orange-red feathers that slowly shifted toward white the further they went to the tail. From the outside alone, it was definitely a phoenix all right, just. I see what you meant, Yuchin said, pinching her nose. There was a weird, sticky liquid clinging to the bird's body, and it smelled quite bad as well. Right away, Kierra lifted the bird with telekinesis and threw everything left on the ground into her trash bin. After washing it with water magic for a while, she dried it using wind magic, then left it on a blanket. What now? The fox asked as it stared blankly at its supposed master, who showed no sign of opening her eyes. Just wait. Kierra responded simply before she went to the kitchen for a snack. When she casually came out with 4 cups of vanilla ice cream, the other 3 were puzzled. Eat. Upon digging into this foreign dessert, they were blown back immediately. Degree. What was this cold yet so delicious thing? So Kierra quietly sat there, eating her ice cream, while watching 2 humans and 1 fox throw their dignity away to devour the cups of ordinary dessert. Once that was done, the baby phoenix finally moved a bit. Under the eyes of 4 people, it slowly got up, seemingly confused about the situation. Kierra spoke up. If you understand what I am saying, nod. The bird blinked a few times, then nodded. Try to talk. The phoenixes Kierra met could speak while in their bird forms, so in this case, this thing should be able to chirp. Maybe not. Once again, leaving the explanation for other people, Kierra went out to the balcony to watch some stars. There was no wind out here, but one could barely notice any of that when standing before a whole galaxy in the distance. Now, this galaxy was just a mere illusion, a mimic of the real galaxy Kierra's home planet was in, but it seemed convincing enough to deceive most people. Cosmos. Following the Archwizard's call, a sun-like sphere appeared beside her. This time, it was a bit bigger and a bit brighter. What is your progress right now? Kierra asked. It is near completion, my friend. I see. Do you feel any difference in the quality of the knowledge? Definitely. How so? I feel this universe has a higher ceiling than ours if these are indeed entry-level techniques as they are made out to be. This meant that there was definitely someone stronger than Kierra in this world. Someone who could match the strongest in the world and even defeat her. I like it. Kierra smiled. She loved the idea of having to compete for the top spot again. Well, if you are almost done with the Lightning Tiger Library, then we should move to another one soon. I appreciate your help. No problem. It was time to visit the Shaolin Temple. After staying outside for a while, Yuchin came up behind Kierra. She caught up, it seems. I see. Let us go inside. When the two came back into the house, they saw the little phoenix already flapping its wings around, inspecting its new body. Seeing Kierra and her dominant aura, the phoenix quickly hid behind Shen. "What is her name?" Kierra asked. "Lan. Her name is Lan," Shen replied. "She is a bit shy, as you can see." Kierra nodded. Now that she had confirmed the two's survival, it was time to move on. Kierra turned around and told Tianyun to arrange for someone to take her new pets on a tour of the sect, and she informed them of the necessary information. "Of course." The White Lotus responded. With that, the little party inside Kierra's private dimension had come to an end. Kierra spent time cultivating that afternoon on the top of a mountain. "This is harder than I thought." Kierra thought she was ready to cultivate her level further, but it appeared as though her chi had not completely assimilated into her flesh just yet. Kierra suspected her overly dominant mana flow had something to do with it. Normally, these kinds of problems could be solved by consuming a rare elixir or something similar. Wait, what are the artifacts in this world like again? Kierra had totally forgotten to inspect them. She was too focused on cultivation. Now, she had read about a few in the library of White Lotus, but those were quite obviously superficial pieces of information. She hadn't had her hand on a real one just yet. So Kierra quickly got up and began to descend the mountain. It was time for some treasure hunting. Artifacts? We don't have them. Confronting Tianyun about the matter, Kierra was immediately faced with the reality of the situation. This dirt-poor sect. It is quite embarrassing, but our sect is relatively young, you see, Tianyun scratched her cheek. It has only been 4,000 years or so. So 8 times older than Kierra was considered young here. Either way, it seemed Kierra had to see another sect for this matter. So she quickly said thanks to Tianyun and turned away, leaving the clueless sect leader of White Lotus behind. Kierra willed her magic and teleported to the Lightning Tiger sect instead. Upon arriving at the front gate, she was greeted by the busy side of the town. The Archwizard then caught a guard nearby. "Where is the sect leader?" Seeing Kierra's signature witch hat, together with the domineering aura radiating from her, the guard replied nervously, "He is currently in the main hall, I believe." "I see." Kierra shot herself up in the air and flew right into Kong Jiang's office, just like she did the night she conquered this sect. This time, however, there was not only the sect leader there. Feng Ling, a disciple of the Amei sect and the abbess herself, sat opposite Kong Jiang and Kong Shirun. For a brief moment, there was an uncomfortable silence inside the room. The two from Amei stared at Kierra blankly, as did the father-daughter pair of Lightning Tiger. Finally, it was Kierra who broke the silence. "Kong Jiang." Oh, yes, Lord Kierra," Kong Jiang hurriedly stood up. "What might you need from us? Do you have artifacts?" "Artifacts. We do have one, but what do you need it for?" "Researching purposes." Kierra wasn't lying. She was genuinely curious about them. But Kierra failed to realize that artifacts in this world were much rarer than in her old world, thus leading to this situation in which Kong Jiang was hesitant to hand over the sect's only artifact. The thing is, Lord Kierra." When Kong Jiang was about to give up and hand over the artifact, the abbess suddenly turned to Kierra. "If you want to borrow an artifact, we can provide one," the abbess said. Kierra was naturally puzzled. Why suddenly? In truth, Amei's abbess had been reflecting on herself these past few moments after the tournament. She recognized her action against Kierra that day was rash, and if she didn't try to mend her relationship with the Archwizard now, the whole Amei sect would lose out on a completely new source of power. She planned to come directly to White Lotus to do it, but who would have thought Kierra would be here, where the Amei sect's force was sent to aid the demon situation. Nevertheless, the abbess had only one job to do. So, she also stood up and walked up to Kierra. The abbess herself had always prided herself on being a beauty, but before Kierra, she felt like a mere country girl. Scary. The abbess bowed lightly. "I might have gone too far the last time. Allow me to apologize." "No problem. I am used to it," Kierra replied simply. "Rather, you said you could provide me with an artifact, correct?" "Of course. Follow me to Amei. It is not far from here." "Fine." The abbess secretly smiled in her heart. Now that she thought about it, a mere tournament was nothing to be concerned over. She still had lots to learn. "Feng Ling, we are going back," the abbess turned to her disciple. Already, master?" Feng Ling widened her eyes. "There is still the demon talk." "The demon has been taken care of, and that is all that matters." "Understood." When the abbess, Feng Ling, and Kierra were about to leave, Kong Shuren hurriedly spoke up. Master Kierra. Could I move to White Lotus right away? She asked politely. I want to train myself as soon as possible. You have my permission, Kierra replied. Talk to Tian Yun, she will guide you through the process. Thank you very much. Leaving behind the girl who had her back bent and an awkwardly standing Kong Jiang, the three took off to the sky. Now that I think about it, what was your name again? Kierra questioned. It is Mia Xieren. How about yours? Kierra Scarlet Aspinova. I see. Soon, they entered the territory of the Amei sect. As they slowly moved over the town, Kierra marveled. This place was as big, beautiful, and bustling as many big cities back in her world. So this is one of the supposed top sections. After a bit, they arrived on top of a mountain, among many others, where a large building could be seen. This is our treasure warehouse. Although there were initial concerns over letting a stranger like Kierra enter this area, the Amei sect eventually decided to gamble it for the Archwizard's mysterious power, a chance to learn it, to be precise. Passing through the numerous outside, the three entered the building. The interior of the warehouse was similar to that of museums back in Kierra's world, which also meant this sect had enough artifacts to display them as though they were art pieces or historical pieces. There, Kierra saw swords, bows, pendants, teapots, chairs, and even a brush, among other things. It was certainly diverse, and Kierra couldn't exactly tell the differences between them. She wasn't skilled enough in Qi just yet. Nevertheless, she could already feel some sort of unique energy embedded in each and every item. Based on that alone, they seemed similar to the artifacts she knew. Just then, they had reached the middle of the room, and Mia Xieren turned back to Kierra. Kierra, please sit there. I will personally bring you the items available for you, she said. I appreciate it. Kierra was satisfied with the abbess's current attitude. If everyone were as helpful and considerate as this woman, Kierra wouldn't have had to fight numerous wars in the past. But if so, she would not become her, as everybody knew today. It was certainly a weird moment for the Archwizard. After waiting at the table for a while, Mia Xieren and her disciple finally came back, each carrying a wooden tray. Do look at them freely. You can choose one to borrow. All right. Kierra pondered. There were 3 items in each tray, for a total of 6. She didn't know what they could do just yet, so she decided to ask. What does this do? This is the heavenly poison dagger. It could generate poison inside the blade and shoot it out. So it was quite useless. Kierra could create poison at any time. How about this one? The largest sized storage pendant. It has the volume of a tall building. Her storage space was larger than that. This? A magical calculator. It could compute large numbers in just seconds. Kierra was confident she could beat this thing. No use. So what is this golden peach slice? This was clearly an anomaly. Kierra had been eyeing this from the beginning. This is a part of the peach of truth. Whoever eats it will only tell the truth for a day. Do you want to eat it? Yes. For all. When Mia Xieren looked up at Kierra, she saw the Archwizard was grinning ever so faintly, and her vivid red eyes seemed as though they were shining. You want me to eat it? Mia Xieren confirmed it once more. Yes, Kierra instantly replied. I know what you want. I can give it to you, if only you eat this. Mia Xieren gulped. It was the first time in a while she felt this nervous facing someone. She couldn't raid Kierra at all. Was this a trap? Would she be scammed by this weird woman? But the offer was too attractive. If Amei could obtain that mysterious power. Slowly, Mia Xieren's hand reached out to the piece of golden peach. Master. Feng Ling hurriedly called out to Mia Xieren, who had already grabbed the slice of peach. She felt as though this was a rash decision coming from her usually level-headed master and sect leader. If Amei's secrets were to be exposed to the world, then it would be an impossible task for them to reach the top in thousands of years to come. Mia Xieren froze. She carefully looked at the opponent in front of her once again. Kierra's facial expression was unchanging, her composure could not be matched by anyone she ever knew. Amei's abbess felt like she was facing an absolute entity, even if she couldn't evaluate Kierra's full strength. Let me ask this, Kierra, Mia Xieren spoke up with a serious face. What do you stand to gain from this? Entertainment, Kierra replied instantly. Do not joke with me. I am not, Kierra narrowed her eyes slightly. And before you ask, there is no way I will allow you to keep silent. It would not be fun that way. Just like that, the two stared at each other for a while. Eventually, it was Mia Xieren who couldn't stand the pressure coming from Kierra. Ugh. She moaned as she brought the slice of peach to her mouth. Do not worry. I have no intention of ruining your little sect. Mythical ate the peach. No, as soon as the piece touched her lips, it shattered into millions of light dots, then flew into the abbess's body. She ate it. Fengling mumbled and hugged herself. She had a bad feeling about this. Meanwhile, Kierra was delighted. There was nothing more fun than trolling powerful people like this woman. This was yet another refined hobby of the Archwizard, one she had practiced thousands of times back in her old world. Nevertheless, it was now time to enjoy the fun. Mythical. Tell me your 3 sizes. Degree A degree, degree A degree. Both the people from Amay were stunned. This lustful, evil woman was after their bodies. Gazing into Kierra's blood-red eyes, Mythical's body involuntarily trembled. Knowing Kierra was a pervert, the abbess of Amay hesitated to give in. Still, the offer of a new power was there. She believed such an overwhelming woman as Kierra wouldn't do such cowardly acts as lying. She gritted her teeth and grabbed her thighs in frustration. The future of Amay was now dependent on her. Would you be satisfied with only my body? Mythical asked timidly. No, master. Fengling interjected. Please let me. You stay back. Watching this novel-like drama unfold in real life, Kierra was beyond happy. So, she sat there in silence, staring intently at the pair of master and pupil arguing over who would give their bodies to her. Eventually, it ended in Mythical's determined victory, and Fengling was left in tears, begging to replace her master. It was an emotional moment. The abbess finally turned back to Kierra. I am ready, she said. Do whatever you want with my body. Facing her, Kierra rarely smiled, making Mythical's body hair all stand up. It was both beautiful and scary for her, a beautifully frightening scene. I only asked your 3 sizes, Kierra replied simply. Degree A degree, degree A degree. Say it or not. 82, 60, and 91. I see. They matched what Kierra was able to observe. Assuming Mythical was a normal person who would be shy talking about their 3 sizes, this slice of peach worked quite well. Kierra then stood up, much to the confusion of the other 2. I want a tour of your sect. Okay. After getting bamboozled, the 2 were too embarrassed to think properly. Now, they looked like some gloomy guides instead of the pillars of Amay, a sight Kierra greatly enjoyed. Nevertheless, the 3 began to travel inside the sect. They soon arrived at a relatively big tower. What is this building? It is where we store regular weapons. Mythical went to say something to the workers, and the 3 were off again. This field? It's for people who like to play sports, as you can see. A dedicated one of such caliber. Children, you know, they are our future. Following the abbess's rather warm gaze, Kierra could see numerous children playing in the distance. Burning the scene into her mind, Kierra nodded lightly. The 3 continued. How about this one? It is where we craft medicine and such. Although we still can't match the Tang clan, these people are the pride of our sect nonetheless. Just like so, they traveled across the sect, visiting many important places in Amay. From a certain point onward, Kierra felt Mythical was comfortable with what she was doing in the sense that she didn't seem like a person who was being forced to tell the truth. Mythical was proud of her sect, and she was more than ready to sacrifice herself for it. This was what Kierra inferred from their time together. When they realized it, the tour had been completed. The 3 wandered inside the vast library, the last place they had visited. As they walked along the bookshelves, Kierra broke the silence. Mythical. Yes? Do you love your sect? Absolutely. The answer was instant. There was no hesitation in her voice either. Kierra smiled lightly. I see your determination. However, you are doing it quite wrong. Mythical was content to sacrifice her own body for her sect's development, so there was no argument that she was a devoted sect leader. But from what Kierra could tell, the abbess was too fixated on strength. It was not hard to spot her greed for power. I will ask another question, Kierra stopped, prompting the other 2 to follow suit. Mythical, do you want the people of your sect to be happy? The abbess resolutely replied. Absolutely. What is wrong with it? You see, I can't spot you in the frame, abbess. Kierra turned around with a serious face. You are a crucial part of your own sect. If you are happy, people will be happy. This is speaking from experience, the Archwizard added. But I'm. When Mythical was about to say, I'm happy, her voice wouldn't come out, no matter what. See? Kierra shook her head lightly. Find a way to enjoy yourselves. Life isn't always about strength. Master. As Feng Ling grabbed her stunned master's hand, Kierra turned to the ceiling. Well, it's not like I'm better as a leader. She herself was the one who abandoned her magic tower just to pursue some uncertain fun. Well, at least she was sure she would come back there one day. Passing by the two from Amei, Kierra patted the abbess's shoulder. Think about it. When you decide what to do, come find me. At that time, I will guide you to a new height. Kierra slowly took off into the sky. This visit was a great success. Not only did she troll these two a lot, but she also had Cosmos infiltrate their library. Life was amazing for the Archwizard. When Kierra flew back to White Lotus, the sky had turned dark. She stopped in the air briefly to take in the beautiful scenery of a brightly lit lotus before heading toward Crimson Tower version 2.0. Upon entering floor 100 via the window, she saw it was still crowded with people. Her usual disciples were there. Yu Chen and Tian Yun were also there. Even the newly admitted Kong Shuren was there. All of them were training intently, not realizing the arrival of their master. As expected. Magic brings people together. No matter their social status or origin, people would always stand together in the pursuit of magic. This was what Kierra realized after being a tower master for hundreds of years. Well, maybe, except for those pets chatting in the corner of the room. And Kierra wouldn't question why Kong Shuren had a black blindfold on either. This is normal. The Archwizard moved her gaze, this time staring at the starry sky. After unintentionally lecturing the Abbess of Amei earlier, a surge of memories resurfaced inside Kierra's mind. When she used to go to conquest with that woman or when she was leading an expedition team from her tower, she would always look at the sky like this. The galaxy that she was in homed her, and its stars were her friends. They would guide her through numerous trials, protect her in dire situations, and lend her their strength in critical fights. Now that she was in another universe, Kierra thought it was time to study the stars seriously. For that, she needed a relaxing environment, one that would allow her to concentrate fully. A hot spring. This was it. Kierra quickly decided to build a hot spring later that night. When she was absorbed in stargazing, a loud gasp sounded behind her, prompting her to turn around. A disciple of hers seemed to have run out of stamina when circulating mana. Oh, gee, good night, Master Kierra, she greeted her timidly. Machem, good work. It was rather awkward. Partly because of that and because Kierra's mood was good today, she decided to give her hardworking pupils some pointers. So she walked up to the disciple and grabbed her wrist. Master? Stay still. I shall show you the optimal way to circulate mana. Oh, whoa. As Kierra established proper flows inside her, the disciple felt like her body was so light it would levitate at any moment, even if she could already do that. With a renewed respect for the Archwizard, the disciple began to take note of the way Kierra did it. Soon, more and more people were aware of Kierra's presence in the room. They were also quite exhausted, so they just stared at the scene. After a while, Kierra released the disciple. Go on. Thank you for your guidance, Master Kierra. MHM. Seeing the disciple hop her way to another corner to practice, others began to flock in. Master, my flows are also broken. Master, I can't cast my spells well. Master, I'm hungry. Kierra was nearly stunned. She had never seen students this enthusiastic before. And wasn't the last one totally unrelated to magic. Either way, she couldn't take care of everyone here. So Kierra did what she was best at aside from magic, tossing problems onto other people. Go ask her, Kierra pointed to the disciple at the corner. But. They were rightfully quite upset at that. Silence fell, and everybody just stared at Kierra with puppy eyes, but Kierra didn't seem to mind them much. Then, one girl suddenly spoke up. Master, could I ask you something? It was one of the more ambitious disciples. Intrigued, Kierra replied. Speak. Pardon me if I might come across as rude, but I still don't know what the pinnacle of magic looks like. So. She is right in front of you, silly head. Kierra sighed. But she also understood the disciple's worries. This girl must not have seen Kierra fight before, so she didn't know how amazing magic was. Yu Chen, Kierra called. Do you know a large area whose terrain I can destroy? How large are you talking about? Yu Chen, who was standing behind the group, asked. At least 10 times as big as this sect. 10. That is quite. At this point, Tianyun intervened. There is one place. The land of death should be a good place. If Tianyun remembered correctly, that place was hundreds of times larger than this little sect. Kierra, meanwhile, had limited knowledge of it. She read in one of the books that it was supposed to be where evil forces resided, but beyond that, nothing. Good. We go to that place. Just like that, Kierra swiftly summoned Kamikaze, her trusty ride, and put the whole class, including the two pets, on his back. Everybody was confused except for some. Yu Chen and Tianyun were confident of what Kierra was up to. Knowing the Archwizard, she would want to assert dominance over the disciples, and they were indeed curious about what Kierra might do. With Kamikaze flying at full speed in the provided direction, it only took roughly 10 minutes for them to reach their destination. In front of Kierra now was a vast, plain-like terrain without any visible life form, and the ground had a gloomy, dark grayish color. She could feel something deep, deep underground, was corrupting the whole region, but she honestly couldn't be bothered to dig in deeper. So she bid goodbye to Kamikaze and took a deep breath. Watch closely, she spoke calmly to the group before turning to the dead land. This is the pinnacle of magic. Kierra grabbed the rim of her witch hat and pulled it down lightly, covering anything above her nose. The wind blew. Everybody waited with bated breath. They had no idea what was going on, but just Kierra's attitude was able to make them nervous. Soon, a gentle wave of mana escaped Kierra's body. The small ripple quickly turned into multiple billows, expanding rapidly until they covered a vast area around her. It was as if the group were standing on shallow water. Then, the mana formation suddenly froze and remained static for a while. Kierra slowly raised her right hand. Snap. With a single snap, an unimaginable amount of mana burst out of Kierra's body. Space itself seemed to have succumbed to this display of raw power, evident in the fact that the atmosphere was actually contorting wildly around the Archwizard. Among the strong mana wind generated by the spell, Kierra began to chant. Heed my call, ancient beast of ice. Lend me the power to plunge this world into bitter coldness. Kierra's gentle yet dignified voice rang through the area. As she willed her incredible might, even time slowed down considerably as if preparing for what was to come next. Every life on this earth is vain, for what I desire is eternal beauty. Cease all movements of the livings, and bring forth your deadly maw. The absurdly dense mana bubble then collapsed entirely into a tiny ball of icy blue energy, floating lazily in Kierra's palm. The wind stopped. Silence. In the eyes of onlookers, this scene was equally scary as it was mesmerizing. Not long after, Kierra opened her mouth one last time and crushed the orb. Burst forth. Frost Abyss 9. Accompanying the deafening sound was a blinding flash. For anyone other than Kierra, their minds went blank entirely, and they were essentially stunned. After God knows how long, senses and reasons finally returned to them. They nearly lost them again the second they opened their eyes. What? In front of them right now was a literal manifestation of an ice hell. Nothing but blue ice surrounded them, even extending out of the horizon. The sole culprit, meanwhile, was standing there, watching the reflections of stars on the clear ice she just made. It was beautiful. Archwizard K's Journey in the Cultivation World by Kaliel. 3.9K 14220. Previous next. At the border of the land of death, silence was heavier than any words that could be muttered. Kierra's spell, by any definition, terraformed the whole region around the group. The previously barren and dull gray plain that once existed had now transformed into a sparkling and frigid terrain, with a shiny surface that reflected light like a giant mirror, on which were the myriads of stars for everyone's eyes to feast. While Kierra was absorbed in the sight, Tianyun finally snapped out of her trance. Kierra, she called. Speak. Kierra calmly turned around. When will this thing disappear? Seeing Tianyun's rather cautious attitude, Kierra sensed something was up. When I want it to, she replied anyway. Why? The White Lotus let out a sigh of relief and proceeded to explain to the Archwizard. This crazy spell of yours ought to be damaging the properties of unorthodox folks. Tianyun gazed into the distance. If they knew who did this, you would be chased to the end of the world, Kierra. And even if you managed to hide it, they would blame the orthodox sects and wage war at them for long as this remained. Unorthodox. Kierra quietly pondered. Are they supposed to be people who worship the evils? Largely, yes. Good. I shall leave it like this, then. Ah. For all. For all. For all. In true Kierra fashion, she decided to annoy the crap out of those evil folks anyway. She had a severe deficit of the interesting drug, and she had reckoned a few wars would do the trick. They should be grateful she didn't unleash an 11-star spell on this realm, or else half of the planet would have been blown away. If they want war, I shall give them war, Kierra firmly told the rest. No one was able to refute the Archwizard, especially after seeing what she had done to this area. Soon, Kierra got bored of looking at the empty field and once again summoned Kamikaze to return. She could have used teleportation, but at this moment, she felt too lazy to construct that complex spell again. Just like so, another 10-minute ride ensued, and everybody got dropped into White Lotus's plaza, some still trying to comprehend the scene they had just witnessed. Bai Qing seemed the most impressed. She suddenly had the motivation to train for another 1,000 years. Eventually, all the other disciples dispersed, leaving behind Yu Chen, Tianyun, Xin, Lan, and Kong Shuren to follow Kierra. Why are you following us? Xin, who was sitting on Tianyun's left shoulder, asked Kong Shuren. On the other side, Lan was also staring down the blindfolded woman. I wish to follow Master Kierra closely. Kong Shuren replied simply. This was genuine. At first, she was just trying to imitate Kierra's vibe, but now that she had had the first taste of magic and glimpsed the marvel it could create, Kong Shuren became an honest disciple instantly. I see, Tianyun shrugged. What are we doing anyway? All eyes were on Kierra. She was a natural leader, anywhen and anywhere she went. Charismatic, stoic. She turned around with her usual emotionless face and immediately dropped a massive bomb. Copulating. For all. Sorry, what? Was Kierra going to sleep with someone? Or was everybody present going to sleep with each other? Even the pets? Fortunately, before the misunderstanding could worsen, Kierra clarified her intention. Not me. I am going to breed plants, she said. Why are you lot following me? Ah, well, we are curious, perhaps? Tianyun replied awkwardly. I will be going now if you don't want me to. Not exactly. You can follow. Oh, okay. Getting the green light, the group followed Kierra into her My Home pocket dimension. Leaving behind the amazed Kong Shuren, they went out to the garden. This place was more extensive than expected, with strange plants neatly sowed in rows. Most could produce rare medicine ingredients and other useful stuff. As for Kierra's intention at this moment, she simply wanted a cup of sweet, creamy, and delicious hot chocolate. When throwing herself into this world, she totally forgot about bringing cocoa with her, simply for the fact that she had people prepared for her before that, so she took it for granted. Fortunately, she could still breed 2 or 3 species together to create the giant cocoa plant right in this garden. When Kong Shuren joined them, she briefly explained what she wanted to do and took out a box of seeds. With graceful movements, she threw several of them onto an empty pot of dirt and drew her mana. From her outstretched hand, a delicate green aura diverged, plunging into the pot. Whoa! That's incredible, human. The pot lit dimly before the seeds grew into sprouts, where they quickly fused to create a single tree. As Kierra poured her mana in, the tree grew taller and bigger, eventually surpassing its planter and more. The cocoa fruits were ample and healthy, and the numbers weren't small. This was a success. After turning them into actual cocoa powder using a magic procedure, Kierra invited everyone to her balcony to have a drink together. As Kierra had expected, they were impressed right away. So sweet. Yu Chen hugged her cheek. The 2 pets shared a cup, and they seemed like starved dogs licking a bowl of soup. Even Kong Shuren was smiling ever so slightly. Pooh, ha. This is so good. Tianyun, with a foam beard formed when downing the cup, turned to Kierra. Can I have another one? Sipping her own cup, Kierra calmly nodded. Yay. Well, this is not bad. Every time Kierra drank a cup of hot chocolate, she remembered that woman. She was the one who got Kierra her first cup, and it became her favorite drink right away. No matter how hard she tried, there was nothing that could be compared to that first cup. As she stared at her own reflection on the surface of the hot chocolate, her red eyeliners, thick lipsticks, powder, Kierra fell into deep thoughts. Well, knowing that woman, she would come to find me sooner or later. At that time, she would have to deal with her once again. It was an inevitable pain, but one that Kierra hoped to resolve one day. Kierra. Suddenly, someone gently nudged the Archwizard. It was Yu Chen. The martial master of Qianling's face was relaxed, and her lips were curled up. What is the matter? I just want to say thank you for the wonderful time tonight. No problem. By the way. Yu Chen blinked a few times, occasionally looking to the side. What is your type? Why suddenly? I believe you are not so dense, Kierra. Yu Chen looked straight into her opponent's eyes. You felt it, didn't you? My intention. At this point, Yu Chen decided to just go for it. No more beating around the bush, no more hesitating. In the first place, things were always abrupt and rash in this realm. It was because of Kierra that she got a bit wiser, one might say. On the other hand, Kierra had no definite answer just yet. She didn't really know what her type was, and she didn't know the answer to Yu Chen's question either. Just know that I prefer women. Got it. Unbefitting her usual image, Yu Chen suddenly smiled sweetly, surprising even Kierra. She then happily drank the cup, knowing she at least had a chance in this. Meanwhile, Kierra was sighing in her heart. She was a magnet to women, she swore. A pink diamond. That was what the girl dedicated to Kierra, together with the promise of eternity. Beautiful, isn't it? Her cheerful voice sounded. Indeed. Kierra replied calmly and stroked the girl's head. The girl was an exact match of a pink diamond, which meant tenderness and femininity, but more than that, she was adorable. Just like that, Kierra and the girl held the pink diamond together and spent time quietly in the crystal forest. Lying peacefully on Kierra's lap, the girl spoke up. We are going to make it, right? Kierra caressed the girl's cheek and smiled ever so faintly. Of course. I am here, after all. The girl happily nuzzled her face against Kierra's touch, dreaming of a brighter future. Stir. Master. Awoken by an uninspiring voice, Kierra slowly took a look around her. A familiar interior, a familiar view outside the window. She was in her own bed, in her own house, her own pocket dimension. Searching her memory, Kierra soon found out why she was sleeping in the first place. She just had an urge. Humans were finicky creatures, changing their minds every weekday. The same happened to Kierra, and that was all. Nevertheless, she noticed a person wearing a maid costume standing beside her bed. It was Vel, her personal maid. Kierra had summoned her the night before to serve her this morning. Would you like a coffee, master? Sure. With that, Vel excused herself to go to the kitchen. Vel wasn't a human. When Kierra found her, she introduced herself as AEN 35.5, a doppelganger. Still, she was inherently quite different from the doppelgangers Kierra knew, and she was placed inside a rather strange capsule, so Kierra kidnapped her out of curiosity. From then on, she was named Vel before becoming Kierra's maid and summon. Vel told Kierra that her origin was entirely from another universe, which planted the idea of transcending the stars themselves into the Archwizard's mind. I have to thank her and maybe the people who made her later. Kierra grabbed her witch hat and went over to the table in a good mood. When Vel brought the cup of coffee to Kierra, the Archwizard opened her mouth. Thanks. Vel was speechless for a moment but quickly replied. It is merely my duty, master. MHM. After that, Kierra got Vel to redo her makeup before exiting the pocket dimension. Right away, a sunny plaza scene greeted her, and beside the fountain was a black-haired woman. Oh, Kierra. Yu Chen smiled softly and waved at Kierra. Kierra approached Yu Chen. What happened? You are quite sharp, Yu Chen replied. Indeed, there is a big incident going on with Amei. Yu Chen wouldn't usually wait for her like this unless there was something, was what Kierra thought. Continue. I think you should be listening directly to Feng Ling as she had come here, specifically in search of you. All right. Kierra hoped it wasn't because of her. Probably not. Soon, the two arrived at White Lotus's reception room, where Feng Ling and Tian Yun, together with Xin and Lan, had already seated. Senior Kierra. Feng Ling cried when she saw Kierra enter the room. The girl seemed particularly exhausted, and signs of stress were evident in her demeanor. Kierra and Yu Chen sat down. What do you need me for? Please save my master. Elaborate. At this point, Feng Ling bit her lower lip in frustration. My master was consumed by her internal demon last night, she said, her voice trembling. Now, the whole sect is in an uproar. If Kierra remembered correctly, internal demons were supposed to be representations of cultivators' struggles, be it negative emotions or others. This was not looking good. Kierra felt her profound lecture yesterday had made Mia Sharon's emotions explode or something similar. It was her fault. Nevertheless, Feng Ling bitterly continued. Not only that, but some idiot froze half of the land of death yesternight as well. She yelled. We need to prepare for war on top of this. Feng Ling was distraught. This unfair turn of events, what did Amei do to deserve it? Meanwhile, everyone other than her was speechless. Tian Yun and Yu Chen glanced at each other awkwardly, and the two pets just pretended to play with each other. Kierra, being Kierra, sipped her cup of tea calmly, not showing even a silhouette of emotion on her face. I see, she replied. So it was her fault. Got it. Please, Senior Kierra. The fate of Amay depends on you. At this point, Tianyun intervened. Wait. What happened to Amay's allies? We asked for help wherever we could, of course, just, Master's internal demon is vicious. It went undetected for so long, after all. And I just have an inkling that Senior Kierra might be able to do something to it. Okay. After a brief silence, Kierra spoke up again. I will do it. Senior Kierra. However, Kierra firmly continued. I do not do charity. Amay shall compensate me accordingly. Ah, that is for sure. You can rest assured. The Archwizard grinned in her mind. With this, she would have a legitimate excuse to capture Mia Sharon, which would then enable her to do the same for the entire sect. Soon, she would have the whole Amay under her feet. Excitement filled Kierra's heart. It had been a long time since she felt the joy of conquer, and now was the time to reignite it. Not wasting even one more breath, the two quickly departed from White Lotus, heading toward Amay at once. Expectedly, Amay was crowded with busy people, half contributing to tending to the abyss, half organizing an army for the inevitable war looming ahead. Passing through numerous mountains, the two eventually arrived at a relatively small house in an obscure corner of the mountain range. Here, protection arrays were numerous, like trees in the forest, complicated, like one's blood vessels. Once inside the house, they were greeted with a number of maids, 2 other people, and the abbess herself lying on the bed. HM? One of them turned to Kierra, eyes widened. Isn't this Miss Kierra? Abbot. The abbot of Shaolin politely greeted Kierra. Following that, the other man, Mount Hua's sect leader, also said some lines to Kierra briefly. All of them knew that this wasn't the time for chit-chatting. One just needed to take a glance at the abbess to realize that she was in bad shape. Pale complexion, purple marks all over the face, deteriorating cultivation base. Kierra seriously thought she was looking at another Tianyun. So, do any of you know the cure? Kierra stepped forward. It is regrettable, but an internal demon of this caliber, I am afraid only the abbess herself can defeat it. The sect leader of Mount Hua shook his head. I am of the same opinion, followed by the abbot. Is that so? Kierra let out a small sigh before pulling out a deer skull from her space storage. In front of the puzzled people, she calmly floated it in the air. Let's see if this self-proclaimed demon can stand properly before the true advent of death. Cultivators do not sleep. This was the sentiment shared by many folks in the central divine realm. While it was true that most cultivators did not need to sleep, some still chose to do so over having time to cultivate. Of course, they only slept very rarely. This was to reset one's mind after long days of activities, preventing them from going insane. Yu Chen hated it. She understood that it was necessary, yet she couldn't help but hate it. After all, she had to dream about unpleasant things when she went to sleep. Her father's funeral. The day Tianyun fell ill. The day she almost died. Today, Yu Chen reluctantly closed her eyes, feeling her mind getting close to the limit. Recently, there was that one wizard who loved to mess around, fueling her brain activities as well. Well, she didn't particularly hate it. The last time she had a nightmare, Kierra gave her a pudding, after all. With her mind focused on a single person, Yu Chen drifted into the dream world. The following day, she woke up strangely refreshed. She didn't dream either. If she did, she couldn't remember it, and that was a good thing. As Yu Chen tried to move her hand for a bit of stretching, her palm suddenly grazed something soft. Something elastic. Warm. Smooth. Better touch it again, wait. When she looked to the side, her hand was firmly placed on someone's ample bosom. Tucking nicely in Yu Chen's blanket was a fully naked, fast-asleep Kierra. The quilt only covered the Archwizard's slender waist, leaving her upper body completely exposed. Yu Chen stared at the scene blankly, unable to move. Then, a few strands of black hair fell onto her hand, tickled her, and made her pull back. Machem. Ah. She tried to pull back. Instead, Kierra resolutely held Yu Chen's wrist in place with her hands, yawning a bit before finally opening her eyes. As the pair of hazy red pupils gazed at Yu Chen's purple one, a sticky and sweet scent seemed to have permeated the air around them. This naughty hand. Kierra muttered in a slightly hoarse morning voice, sounding extremely mellow. Do you still want to? After what happened? What happened? When Yu Chen forcefully pulled back and inquired, she realized that she, too, was naked. Was it too intense? Meanwhile, Kierra propped her head up and spoke leisurely. As Yu Chen was busy computing the situation, the Archwizard smirked and began to crawl toward her. Wait. What's wrong? You were so eager last night. Kierra climbed on top of Yu Chen, letting her hair cascade down and merge with the others. Yu Chen instinctively gulped, seeing Kierra's mesmerizing face right before her eyes. If you forgot. Kierra whispered coquettishly. Let me remind you, my dear. Unable to move, Yu Chen could only anticipate as Kierra lowered her head, two pairs of eyes close together, and then. Snapping back to reality, Yu Chen hurriedly looked around, only to find herself alone in her room. A full minute later, she barely realized that it was all a dream. Damn it. That day, Yu Chen was slightly irritated, yet she could only grit her teeth and follow Kierra around, reimagining the scene from her dream. What am I doing? When the dejected Yu Chen sat in the corner alone, Kierra suddenly approached and sat down beside her. At this time, the Archwizard casually smiled and got close to Yu Chen's ear. The dream. I hope you had fun, she whispered. In an instant, a shock akin to a lightning bolt ran down Yu Chen's body, a mix of excitement, surprise, and embarrassment. Yu Chen suddenly wanted to sleep tonight, as her brain was too overloaded. This was the first day of April. If someone were to ask Kierra about her most brutal fights in general, one of them would undoubtedly be the OV subjugation. The thing before becoming her summon was truly a menace. Not only did it not have a core, the thing that stores a lich's soul, like others of its kind, but it also had a terrifying ability to absorb virtually every malicious thing in the world. Facing against Ovi, the world had a realistic chance of being destroyed by it. Worse, at that point, Kierra, one of the two pillars leading the world, hadn't met Cosmos just yet. The fight was brutally difficult, yet the one's emerging victory were still Kierra and her allies. Though, they did not go unscathed either. Nevertheless, after making Ovi her summon, Kierra's fame rose to another height, and she became even stronger, effectively eliminating all competition if they had not disappeared yet. As it stood, Ovi had become a crucial part of Kierra's strength. Kierra herself was confident that it would be easy to handle this internal demon thing. Moreover, if one thought about it, weren't internal demons just insecurities? What a joke. Kierra let out a sigh, and in front of all the curious people, she quietly called her subordinate. Ovi. In an instant, an ominous black aura spreads across the room. It sent chills down the people present, and this effect was only further enhanced when they saw two raging red pupils appear in the eye sockets of the deer skull. The maids were immediately knocked out, leaving only the abbot, the sect leader of Mount Hua, and a barely conscious Fengling. As Ovi manifested fully, the abbot nervously spoke up. Miss Kierra, please explain yourself, he said, hand on his staff. I don't see the need to, Kierra replied coldly. Cold sweat ran down the abbot's face. On the other hand, unlike the abbot, the sect leader of Mount Hua was quick to judge. So you were with the evils all along, he said as he drew his sword, pointing at Kierra. At this point, the Archwizard, who was genuinely worried about the state of the abbess, decided that it was not worth wasting time with this guy. But it would be hard to knock him out without affecting the abbess right now. Soon, the course of action was decided. Ovi, examine her. Yes, master. Heeding the call from its master, Ovi quickly deployed a dome-like shield to isolate the abbess together with it completely. Kierra, meanwhile, turned to the duo. The tension in the room was high. When the two were on the verge of attacking Kierra, they heard a sigh from the Archwizard. Do you feel fear? Suddenly, Kierra asked in a mellow voice. The two didn't answer. I shall take that as a yes, Kierra continued. Use your brain for half a second. If I wanted to harm you lot, you would be buried deep underground by now. After a considerable amount of time had passed, the abbot finally lowered his guard, followed by the other man. Just like so, the four spent a little more in this awkward atmosphere, but Kierra didn't care much. Master, report. HM. A parasite-type demon was detected in this woman's body. Danger level? B+. Quite weak, HM. For reference, a demon graded B+ was in the realm of Master back in Kierra's world, and to her, it was basically a toddler. Would you like me to absorb it? As Kierra was about to say yes and be done with it, the abbot hurriedly interjected. Wait. She needs to overcome her demon to obtain enlightenment. And where is the proof that she can do it? Kierra shot back. The Archwizard was confused. If one actually used their brain, they would immediately notice that the option of leaving the abbess be was stupidly risky. These people could live for thousands of years anyway, so why rush for a power-up? But if you don't resolve her mental crisis, the demon will definitely appear again. Underscore? These absolute babies, I swear. Fine. Fine, Kierra waved her hand annoyedly. I shall resolve her mental crisis, yes. Understanding its master's intent, Ovi opened a gate leading to the abyss's inner realm, and Kierra headed right in. Before entering, she didn't forget to leave a comment. Don't bother doing anything to Ovi. You guys wouldn't be able to scratch it in a million years. With that, she gave herself to the gate. Upon her visions resurgent, a bustling scene of a town greeted her. She was now standing in the middle of a busy road, people chatting, walking around, living their lives, and it seemed somewhat similar. This. She could recognize it. The shape of the mountains in the distance and the fact that this was Miashieren's world made it quite obvious that this place was a May. Now, Kierra had visited people's minds before, and the most important thing to do was always to find the owner of the world. They were the key to resolving everything, most of the time. So naturally, Kierra spread her mana around and soon found Miashieren, although she seemed quite different. Sitting in the corner of an alleyway was a gloomy-looking kid who looked to be around 9 or 10 in age. When Kierra approached her, she widened her eyes. How did you find me? She exclaimed. Of course I did, Kierra replied. Now that Kierra thought about it, she was terrible at dealing with children. Nevertheless, she pulled out a matcha-flavored candy from her space storage and put it in the kid's hand. You look sad. Have it, she said. Is this poison? The child tilted her head. Maybe. At least deny it. The child tossed it into her mouth anyway. As she enjoyed the strange yet delicious candy, Kierra sat down beside her. What's your name? Kierra asked. Miashieren. You? Kierra Scarlet Aspenova. What a difficult name. That's your issue, not mine. You're so mean, too. But every adult acts like that anyway, Miashieren laughed bitterly. Always pushing responsibilities, always disingenuous. Mind telling me what is going on? Kierra interjected. I am new here. What? You came here without any information. Well, whatever, Miashieren cracked the candy in her mouth and chewed it intently before swallowing. This sect is nearing its doom. Hearing a kid this young talking about big problems like this was a huge red flag. It usually meant that the child was raised incorrectly, leading to it being forced to adapt to the world at an early age. Due to internal corruption, Ame is deteriorating, Miashieren continued. People hoarding cultivation resources, abandoning education, infighting. She then looked at Kierra in the eyes, her mouth smiling lightly. If you want to find a place to live, I suggest a place like Wudong or the capital, anywhere but here. Have you lost hope in Ame? Maybe. Yet, this woman would become the abbess of the sect and raise it to the top. At this point, Kierra had a good idea of Miashieren's problem, but she still needed to observe more. Miashieren, was it? A bribe of 3 candies was enough for the little Miashieren to give in. Rolling one in her mouth, she happily took Kierra on a tour of Ame. The Archwizard noticed that this child was using some sort of stealth spell, so she also followed suit. First, they arrived at a normal-looking building. This is where we store our weapons. This small? In contrast to the current Amaze weapon storage, this one was pathetically smaller. When they went to another area, Kierra realized something. What is this grass field? She asked. It's just a field. No one uses it for anything. Yet there were some cramped spots Kierra had seen before. The planning was awful, it seemed. Next, they arrived at a rundown house. This one is supposed to be our medicine department, but those idiots ate all the funds, so this is how it looks. I see. Kierra could see the anger in the little girl's eyes. As they journeyed and stumbled upon various locations, it became evident that the state of the Ame sect was not favorable. Considering the Ame Kierra visited back in the real world, this little girl must have been working hard to change this miserable shape. Noticing the little girl lost in her thoughts, Kierra gently stroked her head. Do you want to change all of this? She asked. Who wouldn't? Miashieren laughed bitterly. Yet, I am but a simple child. How this girl was able to find motivation was a curious mystery. Nevertheless, Kierra had not seen the presence of the internal demon yet, so it was time to wait patiently. Just like that, Kierra broke up with the girl, putting a tracking spell on her, before roaming freely around Ame. She visited Miashieren the next day, the day after, essentially every day from that point onward. On the first day, Miashieren was still reluctant. On the second day, she began to create scenarios on her own. On the third day, she cooked up some simple plans. On the fourth day, she Watching the little girl develop her resolve day by day was something Kierra could never relate to. Initially, she didn't have any dreams or grand wishes, she just wanted to live an everyday, happy life. When she came to realize her power, Kierra instantly wanted to reach the top. She was simply this kind of person. In the end, it took the little mythical a whole month to finally decide on her actions. I shall do it. She shouted. This sect shall flourish under my leadership. At this time, the world suddenly contorted. When it stabilized, Kierra noticed the surroundings hadn't changed much, if not worse than before. Having experienced this phenomenon before, the Archwizard calmly stood up and set out to find the little girl again. Walking on the street once again, Kierra soon stumbled upon a large crowd. She quickly flew to the top of a building to see the commotion. Others, sisters. May is now one step away from death. On the stage was a teenage girl passionately giving a speech. From the fact that she had dark blue hair and red eyes, the same as the little girl and the proud abbess, it was apparent that this was mythical. The little girl had matured quite a lot. Her playful manners seemed to have disappeared, replaced by a stoic front and a serious attitude. The once prosperous, once powerful and respected May is now being frowned at, chased out, and neglected. mythical continued. So it is only right that we need to change. By removing those greedy people at the top who are stealing our salary too. Stop. Arg, you bunch. Suddenly, a dozen people stormed in and swiftly apprehended mythical. What a situation. Kierra sighed and used telekinesis to remove those people, then brought mythical up. Whoa. I'm flying, wait, you are. HM? The strange woman who gave me candies that day. Underscore? At least remember my name. Kierra, right. Yes, little girl. After conversing with mythical a little more, Kierra found out that this was 7 years into the future. The soon-to-be abbess, now a teenager, was doing her best to take over May. Anyway, it is nice to see you after a long time, Kierra. Likewise. Then, I have to go now, unfortunately, mythical smiled lightly. I have an appointment with my allies, you see. Good luck. The girl's resolve seemed to have only gotten stronger, but there was also a problem. Kierra sensed an abnormality in her attitude, signaling that the internal demon might have appeared right then. As she was about to trail mythical, the world, again, glitched. This time, the town definitely grew better, but not nearly to the extent of the real May. mythical was no longer on the street but in a big building near the heart of May. Spying on her through the window, Kierra saw a completely transformed mythical. The way she dressed changed, the way she acted changed, and the way she felt changed. mythical now was a full-fledged cold beauty with a demeanor that did not lose to Kierra's own. When conversing with her subordinates, mythical displayed an overly strict attitude, with a mind full of work and efficiency. She looked lonely and not exactly happy. Moreover, as the woman was immersed in tall stacks of paperwork, Kierra noticed a dark aura following her. This was definitely the internal demon. Then, as if promised, the weird phenomenon happened to the world again. May was now flourishing just as a certain girl wanted, yet the very girl was seen sitting gloomily on top of the tallest mountain. Her once vivid red eyes, ones that did not lose to Kierra's own, seemed dead. Seeing a person's complete transformation over the years was certainly something. Morbid curiosity, that was it. Kierra now understood why people made biographies of her. Nevertheless, she needed to save this poor soul. So she teleported to right behind the abbess, prompting her to turn around. mythical's eyes widened for a brief moment. You are. Long time no see, little girl, Kierra replied calmly. Ha. You are about the only one who called me that. Have you achieved your dream? I think I did. No, you didn't. The thick mist of something dark whispered into the abbess's ears. That's right, I didn't. You need to work harder. Of course. Power, wealth, and honor, those are all you need. Power, wealth. Stop. Kierra couldn't stand it anymore. Perhaps because of the pressure coming from everybody when she shouldered the responsibility to fix May, perhaps because of the non-stop work from a very young age, or perhaps because of everything that had happened to her, mythical had cornered herself, forcing herself to become a mere puppet for power. I see now. Kierra finally understood it. At the end of the day, both of them were just human. Kierra had better luck with her career, having supportive people around her, while this girl likely didn't. So this was it. Kierra just needed to become that person to mythical. The Archwizard took a step forward, 2 steps, 3 steps. When she was right in front of mythical, Kierra reached her hands out. Oh. And hugged her.